My father stood at the top of the stairs and yelled, "Get out of this house and don't come back." I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I just looked him dead in the eye and said, "You'll regret this." And then I walked out with nothing. What happened next changed everything. "Get out, now." My father's voice sliced through the silence like a blade. No warning, no explanation, just rage. I stood there, blinking under the yellow kitchen light, holding a fork midair. Dinner was still hot on my plate. My mother wouldn't meet my eyes. My brother smirked. My chest felt tight, like the air had been sucked out of the room. "What?" I barely got the word out. "You heard me," Dad growled. "Take your things and leave. Tonight." There was no shouting match. No begging. I knew better. This wasn't the first time he'd made me feel small, but it was the first time he made it official. I packed what I could fit into a gym bag. A few shirts, my phone charger, some crumpled bills I kept in a drawer. That was it. That was all the life I was allowed to take with me. As I walked past the living room, I glanced back one last time. My brother, Evan, was sprawled on the couch, already eating my leftovers like nothing had happened. Mom still didn't look up. The front door clicked shut behind me, but it felt more like a wall slamming into place. I was 19. No job, no apartment, no plan. Just a heart cracked open and a long, dark road ahead. But here's the thing about hitting bottom. There's no one left to impress, no expectations to live up to, just silence. And sometimes, that silence is where the real story begins. Because what they didn't know, what they never cared to see, is that I was more than their scapegoat, more than the quiet one who never fought back. I was watching, I was learning, and I was about to make that silence roar. The first night out of that house, I slept on the floor of a friend's garage. No mattress, just a folded hoodie for a pillow, and a thin blanket that smelled like engine oil and cigarettes. It was freezing. My ribs ached against the concrete, but I didn't cry. I'd done enough of that behind closed doors, growing up, quiet sobs under covers so no one could hear. It wouldn't help now. What hurt more than the cold floor was the silence from my family. No texts, no calls, not even a, "Did you make it somewhere safe?" It was like I had been erased. I kept refreshing my phone out of habit, hoping for something, anything that told me I still mattered. But nothing came. The friend who let me crash didn't ask questions, just handed me a water bottle and a bag of chips and said, "You can stay for a few nights, but keep it low." That garage became my temporary universe. The whirring of a broken fan, the dripping oil beneath an old car, the rustling of rats in the alley, those were my lullabies. I found part-time work at a gas station nearby. Minimum wage, 12-hour shifts. People tossed change at the counter without looking me in the eye. But every dollar felt like armor proof that I wasn't going to disappear. I started reading at night, using my phone light. Business blogs, audiobooks on mindset, YouTube videos about building something from nothing. I didn't have much, but I had hunger, and that was more than anyone had ever given me credit for. The worst part wasn't being broke. It was realizing I could vanish from their lives, and nothing would change. I wasn't missed, and that knowledge, raw and sharp, became the fuel I needed. They wanted me gone? Good, because the next time they heard my name, it wouldn't be in a whisper. It would be in headlines. Rock bottom isn't a place, it's a decision point. And somewhere between scrubbing bathroom floors during the graveyard shift and brushing my teeth with bottled water in that dusty garage, I made mine. No one was coming to save me. Not my dad, not my sister, not even those fake friends who used to show up only when I was useful. so I stopped waiting. I remembered an old hobby I used to have: design. I used to sketch logos and dream up product ideas in a battered notebook back in high school, long before life trained me to believe I wasn't that kind of person. Late one night, I downloaded a free design app on my phone. The screen was cracked, the battery barely held charge, but it was enough. I started messing around, relearning tools, watching tutorials during my breaks. Slowly, my hands remembered what my heart had buried. Then I stumbled upon a freelancer site offering design gigs. Most of the good jobs wanted experience or a portfolio. I had neither, but I had hunger. I created mock-up projects for imaginary companies. I gave myself fake clients and met fake deadlines. It was all pretend, but I treated it like it was real. Within a week, I had something that looked like a portfolio. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. I applied for my first job, $15 for a basic logo. They picked someone else, then another, and another. Still, I kept going. After 24 rejections, I got my first message. "Can you deliver this in 24 hours?" I replied instantly, "Absolutely." I didn't sleep. I worked through the night, obsessing over every pixel. I delivered it at 5:47 a.m., just before my shift at the gas station. The client replied an hour later, "Perfect. I'll be back for more." That $15 didn't change my life, but it proved something to me. I wasn't broken. I was buried. And now? I was digging myself out, one brick at a time. Momentum is quiet at first. There's no applause, no spotlight, just progress, whispering. I kept freelancing between shifts, my eyes bloodshot, wrists sore from long nights tapping away on a borrowed laptop. Sometimes I'd fall asleep with the screen still glowing. But every new client, every "can you do one more?" felt like oxygen. My world was still small, just a garage, a folding table, a stubborn Wi-Fi signal stolen from the neighbor's unsecured network. But inside that digital space, I was building something real. I was becoming someone. Money didn't flood in. It trickled. $30 here, $75 there. Then, a $200 gig for a product pitch deck. That was the first time I let myself exhale. I walked to the grocery store and bought strawberries, real ones. I hadn't tasted them in months. I ate them slowly, like I was savoring a future. Then came the choice that changed everything. A startup founder I'd done a few designs for sent me a DM. "I love your eye. Ever thought of building a brand from scratch?" I said yes before I knew how. Fake it until you become it. That's what I was doing. We worked together for weeks. Logo, packaging, brand story, visuals. He paid me $1,200 when we wrapped. I stared at the PayPal notification like it might vanish. That money meant I could fix my car. It meant I could finally leave the garage. It meant I mattered again. I used that $1,200 to launch my own design agency. No office, no employees, just a Squarespace site and a fire in my chest. I named it after my middle name. Quiet, clean, no ties to the past. Clients started coming. Word spread. I delivered obsessively. I said yes to everything and figured it out as I went. But the strangest part? My family had no idea. They still thought I was lost, still referred to me as a bit of a mess. My sister told a cousin I was working at some gas station or something. I didn't correct her. Not yet. Let them sleep on me. Let them believe I vanished. Because the longer they ignored me, the louder my silence would become. It started with a Facebook tag. My cousin posted an old family photo from a barbecue. I was in it half smiling, holding a plate of burned hot dogs. The caption read, "Throwback. Can't wait for the next family gathering." I didn't react. But 2 days later, I got a message from my dad. "No. How have you been? No. We miss you. Just, hey, your sister's getting married in October. We expect you there." I stared at the screen. Expect me? This man hadn't called me in almost 2 years. Not when I was scraping by. Not when I was hospitalized for exhaustion and no one showed up. Not even when I emailed desperate for a single word of comfort and got left on read. But now that there was a celebration, now that it would look good for the family portrait, suddenly I was summoned like a prop. And for a moment, just one sick, familiar moment, I almost said yes. That's the messed up part about trauma. It teaches you to crave crumbs, to be grateful when people who abandoned you remember your name. But I wasn't that girl anymore. I didn't write back. Instead, I booked a cabin in the mountains for the wedding weekend. I brought my laptop, a camera, and a bottle of red wine. And when the day came, I posted a single photo to Instagram. Me, wrapped in a blanket, fire in the background, laptop open. Caption: "Building my future. No need to RSVP." 2 hours later, my mother called. I let it ring. Then came the text. "You embarrassed us." And there it was. Not concern, not confusion, not a single question about my life, my work, my healing, just embarrassment. Because I was no longer playing the role of the family failure. And that made them uncomfortable. Let them squirm. They'd built their narrative around my silence. They weren't ready for the version of me that spoke with action. And I was just getting started. Freedom didn't come with fireworks. It came with silence. No one clapped when I signed my first major client. No one sent a congrats when I reached my first 10,000 subscribers. But I clapped for myself. And that sound, it echoed louder than anything my family ever offered. I stopped checking their social media. I unfollowed every cousin, every uncle, every passive-aggressive aunt. Out of sight, out of guilt. But they kept watching me. I know, because my sister's best friend started liking my posts. Because a random coworker of my dad showed up in my live stream and said, "Hey, aren't you Rick's daughter? He says you're doing great now." Now, as if great just showed up overnight. As if I didn't claw my way out of every dark place they left me in. But I smiled. I said thank you. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't confrontation, it's transformation. And mine was just beginning. A video I made about rebuilding confidence after emotional neglect went viral. The comments flooded in. "This is me. I thought I was alone. You just told my story." For the first time in my life, I felt seen. Not because someone gave me permission, but because I took the mic myself. And then came the email. From my mom. Subject line: "Proud of you." No body text. No apology. Just those 3 words, floating in the middle of the screen, like they meant something. I didn't reply. Because healing doesn't always come with closure. Sometimes it comes with boundaries. I kept growing. I turned down offers that didn't align. I raised my prices. I started saying no without guilt and yes without fear. And the girl they once called dramatic? She was now the woman their friends reposted, their coworkers quoted, their church groups shared. They never said it out loud, but I could feel it. The silence had shifted. What used to be dismissal had turned into discomfort. What used to be absence had become presence they couldn't escape. I wasn't missing from their lives anymore. I was haunting them in the best possible way. It started slowly. A comment on an old photo. A like on a post from 2 months ago. Little digital breadcrumbs, as if testing the waters. Then came the message from my cousin Sarah. "Hey, we were just talking about you the other day. Miss seeing you at family dinners. Let's catch up soon." Cute. Except no one ever noticed when I stopped coming. No one called when I vanished from birthdays, holidays, or hospital visits. Now that my name carried weight, now that strangers listened when I spoke suddenly, they remembered I existed. I left the message unread. I wasn't angry. I was indifferent. And that scared me more than rage ever could. Because the girl I used to be would have jumped at the chance. She'd twist herself into apologies just to feel included again. But the woman I had become? She knew better. A week later, my brother Mark sent a voice note. "Look, I know things got weird between you and the family, but we all grow up, right? Water under the bridge and all that. Anyway, Mom was wondering if you'd like to come by next weekend. No pressure. No pressure." As if pressure hadn't been their favorite weapon for years. As if their silence wasn't deafening when I needed them most. Still, a part of me paused. Not because I missed them, but because I missed belonging. But I realized something. If you have to shrink to fit back in, it's not a home, it's a trap. So, I did what they never expected. I wrote back kindly, clearly, and finally, "Thank you for reaching out. I'm in a really good place now, and I've built a life that's finally safe and healthy for me. I wish you all well, truly, but I won't be coming back." I hit send and exhaled like I'd been holding my breath for years. Because sometimes closure isn't a door slamming shut. It's the quiet sound of you locking it from the inside and choosing to leave it closed. It was a quiet Tuesday morning. Coffee in hand, laptop open, inbox full of the usual noise, and then a LinkedIn request. The name made me pause. Margaret Lawson. I hadn't thought about her in years, but I remembered that kitchen table. I remembered the way she raised her glass and said, "Maybe she's just not cut out for much." Margie. My ex's mother. The woman who once made passive-aggressive comments about my clothes, my dreams, my silly ambitions. She was requesting to connect. Not just that, she left a message. "Didn't realize how talented you were. Hope you're doing well. I'd love to endorse your work in project leadership." I blinked. There it was, not an apology, not an acknowledgement, but an attempt. A foot in the door she helped slam shut. I didn't get angry. I didn't smile, either. I just stared at the message for a long time. Then I clicked. Decline. Block. Not out of spite, but because some ghosts don't deserve resurrection. Margie wasn't reaching out because she changed. She was reaching out because I did. Because now my success was undeniable. And some people don't want to lift you. They just want credit for surviving the fallout. I sat back in my chair, feeling something strange. Not triumph, not vindication. Peace. The kind that comes when you stop waiting for people to clap for your growth and start realizing they were never your audience. So no, Margie didn't get to endorse my skills. But in a way, she already had. Because her doubt became my blueprint. Her silence became my fuel. And her toast? Well, it aged like sour wine. They say revenge is best served cold. But honestly, the real satisfaction isn't in getting even. It's in getting free. I spent years trying to prove I was worthy to people who never planned to see it. I bent. I shrank. I twisted myself into versions they could tolerate. Until one day, I stopped, not because I finally won, but because I realized their approval was never the prize. The truth is, when someone loves you only while you're useful, they were never loving you to begin with. So, stop begging to be seen. Stop waiting for someone to realize your value. Don't waste your worth proving it to someone who decided you were small the moment you stopped being convenient. If they discarded you while you were still growing, let them watch from the sidelines while you bloom in silence. Let them gossip. Let them wonder. Let them squirm in the shadows of their own regret. You don't need to yell. You don't need to gloat. You don't need to post your wins just to be noticed by the ones who missed your rise. Because the loudest revenge? It's not a shout. It's a whisper of success so undeniable. They choke just trying to say your name. So here's your moral. If they loved you for the wrong reasons, let them lose you for the right ones. Walk away with your spine tall and your heart intact, because nothing unsettles the people who underestimated you, like your silence echoing louder than their noise. So here we are, not with fireworks, not with revenge screamed from rooftops, but with a quiet kind of triumph, the kind that doesn't need to be validated, because you know what you survived. You know the nights you cried in silence, the days you smiled through the ache, the strength it took to walk away without burning down the room. That's the victory, not the drama, not the spectacle, just you healing, rising, becoming untouchable. And if you've ever felt invisible, if you've ever been dismissed, discarded, or underestimated, then you already know the power of rebuilding yourself in the shadows and walking back into the light on your own terms. Now, I want to hear your story. What's the most powerful comeback you've ever witnessed or delivered yourself? Drop it in the comments. I read everyone. And hey, if this story hit you hard, like it, share it. Subscribe for more stories that remind you. Your silence is not weakness. It's precision. It's focus. It's power. Until next time, stay sharp. Stay unbothered. Stay dangerous.